When you're, to use a phrase that like Mr. Burns would use from 1920, when you're courting someone, you're kind of on your best behavior, hopefully, insofar as you're capable of manifesting your best behavior. And hopefully there's something shiny and attractive enough about you so that when you are in your best behavior, you're tolerable enough so someone just as desperate as you might dare to fall in love with you. You do that on a date, and then it's real easy when you get married to think, I did all the hard work already, and now we can just settle into, people say settle down. Jesus, that's a dismal view of marriage. We're going to settle down. How about strive up? That'd be better. The closest that people get to beauty and romance in their life likely is when they're dating. However distant, they still stay from it. And that's why romance movies are so attractive, because they show people who are peacocking around, let's say, at their best trying to attract each other. And there's something very attractive about that, and there's something romantic about that dream. And it's easy to think that once you've hooked and snared someone, landed them like you might land a fish, that you can just sit on them and they're yours, trapped in your net, and you can settle down or expand outward. But I would say you don't want to fall prey to that temptation. You want to see if you can determine how to not only maintain that commitment to beauty and romance in your life, but to become expert at that. And now you have someone to practice that with, and you could get really good at it. If you get really good at it, it's kind of a miraculous thing to get good at that, because what you find is that if you pay careful attention to romance, you remember who you married. You fall in love with someone, if you're fortunate, you marry them, and when you fall in love with someone, you fall in love with their hidden best. That's a good way of thinking about it. And they fall in love with your hidden best. And maybe because you're so careful around each other, you sort of let that reveal itself. You're letting the light that you would otherwise have hidden under a bushel shine forth a bit. And then you close it back up because you're stupid and sinful and careless and irresponsible and all of that. But still, you can see what's there in that other person. Just like when you have a child, you fall in love with that child and you can see, you see their eternal essence. That's really what happens when you have a child. And then that's put into your care, which is a real miracle, that's for sure. And then you can learn how to maintain a relationship with that. And then you can remember who you were with. And then that's a miracle that you got the person you wanted, maybe. That miracle that you got the person you wanted. If you're careless about that, you forget that person, and they forget it too. And then you settle into this kind of dry, humdrum, settling down boredom that also makes you likely to drift, even romantically, and to become bored and cynical, and to make both of you less than you could otherwise be. You got to put some work into it, especially why? You get married, you both have jobs, maybe you're going to have kids. It's very hard to prioritize romance under those circumstances because you're working a lot and you're tired and you got responsibilities, and maybe you still love your partner, but the romance falls to 11 on a priority list of 10, and you never get past 5 on the list. And so even though you'd like it, perhaps, you don't have time, or it's not sufficiently important. It's like, that's wrong. Your kids will benefit from the beauty of your relationship. They'll benefit from that more than from anything else. And so that, it needs to be, I don't know, is it number 1? It might be number 1 on the priority list. To work hard, to work diligently to maintain the romance in your relationship. That's rule, I don't know, 8, I think, in Beyond Order. I think it's a good chapter, and there's some hints in there about how to do it practically. You got to have a date at least once a week. So here's a rule. You're married. You got to talk for 90 minutes a week about the domestic economy. That's annoying. It's like a management meeting. What the hell's going on in the household? Where are the finances? What are we doing with the kids? Where are things coming unglued? What needs to be repaired? Who's doing what job? 90 minutes a week, minimum. You don't do it, you'll get a backlog, and then you'll get divorced, and then you'll have those discussions for 5 years in court with someone who hates you, with lawyers taking all your money while you're doing it. So 90 minutes a week, man, you better talk to each other and clear away the rubbish. And then 90 minutes a week, you better have your romantic interlude. And you might say, well, I'm not in the mood. It's like, get in the goddamn mood. No kidding. because you're tired and the kids are noisy, and what's your point? Like, get your act together and get at it and figure out how to get yourself prepared for it. It's part of your duty, you know, but more than that, it's like, why would you want to lose that? There's not that. How many things in your life are genuinely like revitalizing, like romance, beauty, music? There's a handful of things, but that's definitely one of them. You don't want to lose that. So at least once a week, you need a date. And you know, if you're lucky, maybe it's 3 times a week. And if you're sane, you can probably manage it twice. But once is a minimum. And so you got to make it a priority, man. And you're going to have to get that 90 minutes of cluttered economic discussion out of the way beforehand, because otherwise it'll exist as a barrier between you. You want someone, I think, in a relationship that you can spar with. And it's partly because you have hard problems to solve. And if the person that you're with isn't willing to put forward their opinion, then you only have half the cognitive power that you would otherwise have. You want someone that you can trust, you want someone that you can build a view of the future with, and you want someone that you can negotiate with. And that's very hard to negotiate with people, because they have to tell you what they think, they have to know what they want or figure it out, they have to tell you what they want, they have to be satisfied when they get what they want, which is also a very difficult thing to manage. And you have to continually update that, because your life goes through different stages. So you got to have that communication. You have to. You'll pay for it. And you don't want to do it because you really want to talk to your wife. It's like, no, she doesn't really want to talk to you either. Because it's the details, the painful details of life that have to be negotiated. And it's work. I'm being a bit cynical about that, but you get my point. And people do avoid that. They leave it in the fog. The last time Tammy and I had a date at our house, she spent the first 5 minutes telling me that I wasn't cleaning the sink properly. Luckily, we only had 5 minutes of clutter to get through. And that meant that we'd had an awful lot of conversations, because there's plenty of complexity in a household. So don't lose that romantic vision, man. That's a big mistake. You have to work at it. Like, you have to work at it real hard to keep it alive. But it's worth it if you can do it. You see the eternal, beautiful spirit of your partner if you do that right. You can see them at every stages of all the time you've known them. You can see who they are at all the stages of their life at the same time. It's really something. Love does that, you know, transforms your perceptions in that way. It reminds you about the remarkableness of being alive and the great fortune you have in finding someone that you can weave your story together with and embark on the adventure of life. But it takes cultivation, you know. It takes cultivation to make that bloom.